You're going on live. Don't.
Hello, Dallas. Hello, everyone. Very good morning to Dallas and good afternoon, good evening to my global audience. I hope you all are doing well and having a wonderful weekend. And it's time again for us to invite another inspirational guest to my show. So, because March is a month that's International Women's Day, but we do continue our day celebration to a month, and we give opportunity to many inspiring women to come on my show and share their inspirational stories. So let us continue our journey to explore more powerful and inspirational women during this month. So let me start my show as usual with a quote by Serena Williams. Of course, you know who that is. She's a Wonder Woman of tennis. So she says that, every woman's success should be an inspiration to another. And we are stronger when we cheer each other and also lift each other. So, what a wonderful and a powerful statement, because I think we all know our strength increases by supporting each other and also lifting each other. I have a very special guest, like I mentioned, and today in the studio, and she says she calls herself as a professional volunteer. I'll tell you why. Because during our conversation, you'll find out like why I said that. Let me introduce her. After graduating from Jackson State University in '87, so she began her 25-year career in the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons, and that's a very unique, the profession for a woman. And I'm very excited to hear from her. And she started as a correctional officer at a Atlanta, judiciary system, and with her, commitment and services, got her promoted into the top secret clearance position of Atlanta Community Corrections Manager. And after coming to Grand Prairie Department of Justice, she served as the operations manager and a Dallas regional reentry administrator before her retirement, not so retirement. Let me tell you why. So she is involved in very closely with many nonprofit organizations, giving her tremendous hours of her service, volunteer hours to these organizations. She has been recognized for her services with the PTA lifetime membership, 2021 Mavericks Community Star Award for, the policing humanity by the UT Arlington Student Society of Real Estate, and honorary title of volunteer of the DFW Metroplex, and the list goes on and on and on. Because ask, and then she's there. You mention her name, and she's there for volunteer, and that's how well the city knows her. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure and honor to invite Miss Vandala Manafee to the show. Hi, Vandala. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's an honor and pleasure having you. Well, that after a long time that we've been trying this one to get you on the show, and then finally it happened. I'm so happy to have you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to make one correction. I
Uh-huh.
graduated from Jacksonville State University. A lot of people confuse that with Jackson State University, and I am
Oh.
a Gamecock. So, for all of you out there feeling cocky, yes, I made that correction. I'm a Jacksonville State
That,
University Gamecock.
okay, well, I'm glad. Okay, so that's really, yeah, good to know. So, well, I know for sure that you're from Chicago,
Yeah.
and that's one of my favorite city as well, because I would love to visit, as many times as possible. And we just saw the Green Lakes for a St. Patrick's Day,
Yes,
the
it's,
special.
it's always a beautiful time for St. Patrick's Day in Chicago.
Yes. So, well, but I want to hear from you to know, and I also want our audience to get to know you a little better. So, tell me and my audience, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm a PK, which I'm a preacher's kid. I was born and raised in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago. People always say, "Well, where are you really from Chicago?" Yes, I am really from Chicago. I was born and raised on the west side. I went to an elementary school, Holland Elementary School, and when I was in the third grade, they wanted to close down our school. And so I gathered up some of the parents, some of the people that attended our church, our family, our friends, and we did a protest around our school, Save Our School. We call it SOS,
Oh,
and
wow.
resulting in them keeping our school open. And I think that's where my community involvement started. And years later, my cousin eventually became a principal of that school. So the school is still open. It's a magnetic school now.
Wow. I've heard that, even at the age of 6, that you actually gathered all the kids and started teaching math in the front porch. Is that true?
Yes, well, it wasn't math that we were reading because my teacher loved to read, and so he would give me the books because I always wanted extra books at home, and so we would have summer school on my back porch. So I would be the teacher, and I would have the kids on the back porch, and we would have summer school on our back porch.
Well, I think, now that as, like the Vandala, the correctional officer, we know a lot about that one. But I'm always wondering, like, what was your first career goal, as growing up? Did you, like say that, okay, I wanted to be this? And so I'm just curious, did you have anything that in mind that, you already had set goal when you were in a high school?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I always knew that I wanted to go to something to serve people.
Right.
So in high school, I was in an Upward Bounds program with
Mhm.
the University of Chicago, and I was in a cadaver program. So people like, you were around cadavers? Yes, I wanted to go into the medical field because I wanted to be a forensic scientist. So I
Oh,
thought that would be a cool way to serve.
absolutely.
Yes, and people like, and some of the people like, why would you want to be around cadavers? Well, my job was I was responsible for cleaning the bodies
Ooh.
um, after the students had worked, the medical students had worked on them, and I had no problem with it. And I was curious about how these bodies were preserved.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I mean, it is giving me chills to even hear that. that that's amazing. That takes a lot of, I don't know whether I should call it as a courage, but yeah, that's an amazing work that you actually accepted and started as. So, like, were you afraid at all that in the beginning, as a, the young volunteer or a worker that is going there and just assigned that job, like, how did you feel, like, even to approach such situation?
I think because I was so young and I needed a job because it was my summer job and I enjoyed going to the university. So coming from the west side of Chicago, taking the bus and going to the university as my job, I saw it as a an opportunity to change the trajectory of my life.
Right.
And there I began to meet a lot of professors, and they were, exposed me to opportunities that I had that I would not have had in my community had I not had this position.
Wow, wow. Well, okay, so that turned out to be like, I'm trying to connect the, both, like, the correctional officer and this one.
Well,
So
that
yeah,
job, I
yeah.
actually, I that job fell into my lap. My uncle, from Chicago, God bless his soul, he's now deceased. Bill Garth had found me a job working for the Juvenile Justice Department there in Chicago. So I was going to be working for the juvenile courts. So before I graduated, the Federal Bureau of Prisons was recruiting, and they were at our campus. And they recruited in January. I was graduating in May, and so the salary was 16,521. So I told my uncle Bill he had
My
gotten me a
goodness.
job. That was a lot of money back in 1987. And so I told my Uncle Bill, I said, Uncle Bill, I said, just let me work a couple of months, like 6 months, and I want to get me a Corvette, and then I'm coming back to Chicago. And so he was like, you know how long it took me to get this job for you? I said, Uncle Bill, I promise. I said, just let me work 6 months, get the red Corvette, and I'm coming back to Chicago. Well, I
Wow.
started in July. By December, he needed me to come back to Chicago. And I
Wow.
said, Bill, I really like this job. He's like, you like working as a prison guard and you don't want to work for the courts? I said, no, sir. I really enjoyed my job. And I did. I enjoyed working in the environment. I started at the Federal Correctional Facility in Talladega, Alabama. And it was an all male facility at that time. The security levels was 1 through 5. I mean, 1 through 5. And then the next level was administrative. And I was at a security level 4, and I enjoyed the environment. I enjoyed being a correctional officer. I enjoyed talking to the inmates. At that time, you don't have a gun in the environment. You have to, it's communication, and we had a radio, and we didn't have any pepper spray or anything. And so, anytime we needed assistance, we would press our what we called our alarm that was on our bodies. And I just enjoyed the environment, and I started volunteering, working in different departments, and that gave me the opportunity to learn more about the agency. And I was just so intrigued about the opportunities because people don't understand that a prison is a city behind walls. So you have everything there. You have the correctional officers that are the police. You have the warden that is like the mayor of the city. You have education, you have food service that are the restaurants. You have the housing units is where the inmates actually live. They have job assignments, and they have everything. It's just within a confined environment. And they actually go to jail while they're in jail.
Right.
So it's everything, medical, everything. So everything was, and I was just so intrigued about the opportunities that the agency could provide me. And my lieutenant gave me an opportunity to be on a special detail, and that launched my career. His name is Gerardo Maldonado, and we're still friends today. And
Wow.
yes, so, and it's just, I ended up transferring to the penitentiary in Atlanta. I was there for 10 years. Went there as a case manager, and 2 years later I was the assistant department head of programs. And people like, well, why would you want to work in a penitentiary? It was an environment that I did not feel threatened in. And when you work for the prison system, they tell you they do not negotiate your life. So if they take you for a hostage, they don't negotiate your life, because they cannot allow a prisoner to leave the confines of an
Right.
institution. So I never felt threatened, even when we were deemed as the most dangerous prison in the United States. I never felt that my life was threatened being there, because when you're in that environment, you have to be fair, firm, and consistent. And so most of the time, even as a case manager, I never had any problems with the inmates on my caseload, and I had inmates serving double life sentences. And when you're fair, when you're firm, and you're consistent, they regulate themselves. And when they would get in trouble, they would be crying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Menifee. Please, please forgive me." I was like, "No, you can't be on. I can't manage you on my caseload, because when you're on my caseload, I have standards,
Right.
and you don't meet my standards, so you can't
No.
be on my caseload." So
So that was a very tough decisions that you had to make, even though that your heart says do it, but your law says no. So that's a must be.
exactly. So, and I was very involved volunteering with inmate programs, because if you don't keep the inmates involved with activities within the institution and getting programs to come within the institutions, their minds become idle. And
Mhm.
as they say, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So
Right. Right.
keeping them involved with programs and having people to come in and provide programs kept them busy.
Mhm.
And that was an opportunity to keep a lot of the activities that were prohibited in the institution from rising.
Right, right, right. So, did you have to go through any kind of a special training to even qualify, or to just go higher levels of this correctional officer that you served? And because you ever come like on a one-on-one the face to face, just cases that you have to talk to them or interact.
Uh,
Okay.
they could, I mean, people always think that you're behind a wall. No, they could reach out and touch me just like you and I sitting right next to each other. We passed each other in the hallways. They would sit across me at my desk when we would have their case reviews. So it's not like I was isolated from them. I walked the halls next to them every day. At one time, our population was probably over what 3,500 inmates.
Oh my lord.
And I was in the hall, walking down the hall next to robbers, murderers, everything, drug cartels, everything that you can imagine of the worst kind of crime that someone could commit. And I was right there in that environment.
How did
And
you
I
separate?
enjoyed it because we weren't there to punish because they had already been sentenced to a term of incarceration. We
Mhm.
were there to ensure that they remained there, and that was my job. So ensuring that they remained there and ensured that they did not commit any other crimes while they were there.
Yeah, of course they're there to just realize their mistakes and not to make it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I was actually asking how did you separate your like yourself from the other side, that what you were actually working, because that must be the hardest one to, because like even if we like day-to-day life of work, that when you sleep all you can think about is like tomorrow this is due, that I need to do this one. So did it ever happen to you, like, okay, this inmate is going through this one and I have to keep an eye, so this is how it is, and something needs to be done for this. So did you ever like troubled by that?
Um, Sometimes the crimes were so heinous. I mean, it's human behavior.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you look at that person and say, wow, you're actually looking, I mean, like looking next eye to eye to this person that has done these heinous crimes, and you still have to provide case management services to them.
Right.
And sometimes it was so graphic, it does, especially when you're dealing with offenders that have committed heinous sex offenses against minors. And I think those cases were the ones that haunted me the most. I mean, there's some of them that I can still think about now, and it really,
Right.
I try not to, because sometimes I think about where are these kids that was violated now,
Yeah.
and did they ever receive any services, and did they ever get any mental health, because they were mentally and physically abused. And I wonder, did they ever receive the type of mental health treatment that they really needed? And, how did it affect them?
Wow. That, yeah, that I mean, it's amazing to hear, because like we kind of like detach ourselves, like we only know the law and order and the punishment, and those two words are the only, but behind the scenes so much goes on, and
Behind
victims,
the scenes, yes.
that
Yeah.
experience really unimaginable. So well, hats off to you for choosing that, because I know it takes like now I can use the word courage like strongly, that yes you were, so because it takes guts to just to enter there and say like I survive here, so that is not an easy
Yes.
thing. So well, that comes to then my next question. So you chose your career, yes,
Yes,
that
I
of course.
did. I chose my career.
Yes, it is. It's tough itself and challenging, obviously, of course. And this is always, like what they say, there is always a superwoman in all of us, right? So I'm sure that you had one too. So what is that you find most challenging? Like, or at least you found challenging that, during that time, that balancing between the family and your career?
I think the most challenging part of my career was after I left the penitentiary. I went to the Atlanta regional office as the community corrections manager, and I was over contracts for halfway houses. I enjoyed that one, but I traveled a lot because I oversaw the contractors. And after I left that job, I went and I was the witness security administrator for the Southeast region. And that one wasn't as challenging because most of the things that I had to do was administrative, and I was dealing with other agencies. And most of the time, I tell people when you see those storylines about people being in the witness protection program, there is a baseline to those stories. A lot of that information is pretty much true. So people do go into programs, they change their name, they relocate them, and it's because they have cooperated with these large scale investigations and crimes of that have been committed, and they do need to change their identity to protect their lives. So dealing with that, and then the government downsized in 2005, and that's how I was transferred to the Grand Prairie office complex in Grand Prairie, Texas. And shortly after, I became the operations manager, and that's where I had to manage the agency's population. And at that time, it was 216,000 inmates, and we had a staff of 39 at the time. And that was a challenge for me because managing the agency's population, providing training, traveling, and being on call. At one time, I had my phone, the agency's phone, and the duty officer's phone. So I was managing three phones. Yes, and it's like I had no life.
Right.
And just trying to manage my life with my husband and my kids, and thank God for my husband Robert and my son William and Richard. They were the winds beneath my wings throughout that entire time of my career, because I would not have been the person that I am without the hugs coming through the door and the smile and my husband kissing me and asking me, how was my day? And I think another thing that helped me was during that time, we did not talk about work. When I came home, home was home and work was work. And separating the two, even though my phone was always ringing for work,
Oh, I
my
bet.
household, we did not talk about work.
216,000. My goodness.
Yes.
Well, by the way, your son still give you that project. Like, congratulations to him for winning the President's Award, by the way. So,
Thank you
you know,
very much. Thank you. Thank you.
so,
Thank you.
I think the good deeds will always come back. The service that you give are definitely coming back to you. So, we really do appreciate like taking such a. I mean, Mandela, this year the theme is breaking the bias, and you fit perfectly in that because I think like you look sweet but you are tough.
Yeah, I used to always tell people, and I still smiled when I worked in the penitentiary.
Yeah,
And
that
I,
is
I, I, did- I
yeah,
always believe don't let your environment change you.
correct.
And I did not. I could be just as tough, smiling and not smile, but because people know if you mean business, when you mean business, you mean business.
Right.
And they knew, don't let this smile fool you. When I need to take care of business, I take care of business. So yes.
Yes, and yeah, and even to begin with our show, that our dear your friend like can't you said like your smile is contagious, and yes, I totally agree with that.
Thank
You
you.
smile that we smile too, but yes, but there is a take home message. Just don't ever let that smile fool you, because we are going to be taking care of our business as needed. So
Yes.
that's the rules, no breaking the law. So absolutely. Well, there is something always comes as a challenging in every step of the way when you move forward and when you're doing in a daily life, like what you said, no matter how hard you try, that sometimes everyone has that so-called quiet moments, and then like, I don't know how am I going to do this, and this is it, like. So during that time, that's what is it that motivates you and say like, give you like, no, Angela, you can do it, like, go forward. So what was it, that inner spirit that of you that did it to you?
I think at home, my family, and at work, The other inmates who would tell me, Miss Menifee, I got my GED. Miss Menifee, I learned this trade. I enrolled into this program. When they were excited about doing something that I had challenged them to do to change their lives.
Right,
And
right,
so seeing them excited about, because every day they, and some half the time the inmates weren't even on my caseload, but I had a relationship with so many inmates on the compound. I would always challenge them. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to report back to me. And they would hold themselves accountable. And they would come back to me and say, I did that and I did. But people, regardless of where you are, people wants to feel like someone cares.
right, right. Oh,
And that's the bottom line. If you show someone that you care, they're going to care.
absolutely.
And so I showed them that I care, that you need to care about getting your education. You need to care about writing your children. You need to take responsibility. And a lot of inmates did not take responsibility, but some did. And
Right,
we had a victims program where inmates were allowed to, take responsibility for their actions. And they did.
right, right. Wow, that's really something that, yeah, we all should, like, keep our blessings in our mind, and then
Yes.
just keep going. That's, well, I'm gonna ask you a very, I don't know if it's a tough question, but we all go through this one. So, like I said, breaking the bias. Well, did you ever, like, first of all, let me ask you that what is gender equality, and have you ever biased by the skin color, like the brown skin, that did it ever came into your way that, okay, because of that, you are either obligated or declined something?
I Jacksonville State University was the first time that I ever saw
Mhm.
the Ku Klux Klan march with their fully hooded. And I was actually going to Walmart at the time. Jacksonville State University was 97% white. And I was going to Walmart with a friend of mine who was white, and they stopped us on the square and they were collecting donations for their organization, is what they call it. And I I was in fear.
Hmm.
And she told me, don't worry about it. And I was like, that's easy for you to say because I'm not going to do anything to you. And the Klansman came on my side and he asked my friend, would we like to give a donation? I said, no, I don't want to give a donation.
You
And
can.
yes, and she said, no, she would not like to give a donation. And then he waved and let us go through, the city. And that night, they burned a cross on the lawn of the first Black surgeon of Jacksonville State University Hospital. And that, when I replay that, and not just seeing it on television, but actually knowing that experience, it's it's an experience that you can never ever
Forget.
forget. And I've had opportunities presented to me.
Hmm.
Um, I would say a lot of my opportunities, I work hard, and there are a lot of people who have been passed over because of the color of their skin, just like I have. I cannot say that that doesn't happen because most of the time people hire people because of the people that they know. And
Right.
when they don't, when it's not the people that they know and they get an opportunity to hire someone else,
Hmm.
they choose, but they still choose people that look like them.
Yes,
And
it's
unless
very.
they're forced to make a decision to go outside of what they're comfortable with, that's not their choice. That's not their first choice. And if you are the hiring authority, most people they go with what they feel most comfortable with and not what they think should be the right thing to
Right.
do. The laws make people do the right thing, and that doesn't always make people do the right thing.
Yes, yes. Well, now you have met so many, like, the state we are living in, especially the city we are living in, is a melting pot that, there is no restriction that there is only one. It's for one. So, you have experienced, you served in many, many organizations that are not just Black Americans or white Americans or Indians or Asians. So you are involved with, because I personally know that you serve, volunteer for every organization that needs your help. So, do you think that is changing, that kind of a behavior or the attitude or any kind of those, so-called the biases is going down, or is this something that we still need to work a lot on?
It's still we need to work a lot on because the laws dictate what we can and cannot do.
Okay.
So regardless of if the laws say that you are required to have diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Uh-huh.
it's not going to happen automatically because the law doesn't require it to happen.
Right.
So you can in your own city, in your community, can have those things, but on a national level, it's not going to happen because it's not required. So you can only start by one community at a time. It's almost like you're dropping a pedal in water or in you hoping that 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 one pebble will spread out
Right. Right. Right.
and people will enjoy what they see and want to drop more petals into the water and see that the beauty of it and want to become a part of it.
Right. Yeah, that explains, because like day-to-day life, that, and also the decision that you make, is not just based on just one day or 1 month, and it has to gradually reach that,
Yes,
you know
exactly.
so, well, thank you for sharing that information, because I know that whenever that we hear the crimes that are happening, and it's not just one race or a gender or even specific thing, like, because it just happens, like, and we don't know that. So that's, if that is not going to change, and then yes, this needs to be changed too. So,
Yeah.
thank you for that, sharing your thoughts on it. So, let me ask you one more this related question as well. Is what was the most one of the most difficult decision during your service as a correctional officer that you had to make, and you were like, just like what you just said, that, oh my gosh, that's, I really don't know how to fix it, but this is the only way I can do this, and that was the most difficult for you to even, like, and you never forget.
In 1987, when I started, was the beginning of the mandatory minimums, and I had no control over when I saw young African Americans coming to jail for life sentences for crack cocaine the size of an aspirin, and you had people that own airplanes and selling powder cocaine and were getting months. And I could not understand why one group of people receive life sentences, and these are young people. They don't have the planes. They don't have the drugs are coming in from someplace to these small communities, and these people are ruining these communities, and they're diluting the drugs to make it cheaper, but it's coming from, but they're getting receiving the greater amount of sentences.
Right, I agree with you. Yes, I have no further questions, because that yes, we witnessed those things a lot, but I wish we were.
But it was the law.
Yes, yes, that's like what I'm saying. So when the law is in front of you, there's nothing much, your hands are tied. You just
My
sort of
hands were tied.
like go with what they say. So yes, but, well, I mean, there are certain ways that you can only revisit, like try to get it straightened up. But sometimes I think there is no way out. And unfortunately, they have to go through it and then finish it. And then that's the only way to get out. So, yes. And that is so, so reality.
It's the
Uh,
reality.
yeah.
Yes.
And it's hard truth, harsh truth, I should say, to accept.
Imagine walking around a penitentiary when you have 20% of your population are 18 to 21-year-old young men who are serving a life sentence or double life and they'll never go home.
Wow. Wow. That is, I don't know. I hope my audience are like listening to this one, and this is something that, they're just getting, something out of this one, that, how difficult it is, that, what the way that life that you choose, that what you pay for it. So I'm sure that,
Yes.
I said, so well, let's also talk about your volunteerism. Like it's, you have completely after retirement that you committed yourself to volunteerism, and you do so many hours with many organizations. So you also say, I've read, you saying that volunteerism gives me the satisfaction and flexibility, okay, and then doing things I enjoy and getting involved without a monetary compensation. That's a very important thing for a person who decides to give back to community. So getting involved, like, and then no expectation, is a very difficult thing for a lot of people to, decide, because the time is precious, and their involvement, especially without expectation, yes, definitely something that they think twice before they even get involved. So how did you become so passionate about it? What was the motivation behind it?
I actually started volunteering right after, well, I've always volunteered, since the third grade, and I became more passionate about it after I retired. I was 47 when I retired, so that's relatively young. I've been retired almost 10 years. I retired in 2012. I can't believe I've been retired a decade.
No, I don't
So
think that you're retired when
I know, right? So I started just by volunteering at my son's school. Then I joined the PTA actively. Before I was just a on the roll member and would provide, whatever monetary things that they needed as support because I was always traveling with my job. And then after I became involved with the PTA, I was voted as a member of the Mansfield ISD Education Foundation, and I served as a foundation member for 3 years.
wow.
And then I just started getting involved in serving on different committees on between Grand Prairie, Mansfield, Arlington, and it just blossomed from there, getting to meet different people, and different organizations would contact me and ask me if I knew someone. And my oldest son William, always tell me, Mom, you're not a professional volunteer, you're actually a connector, because you don't do the work, you just tell people who they need to contact. I said, yeah, son, you're really right. I said, but professional volunteer sounds much better than being a professional connector.
True,
So
true.
people people reach out to me, and I'm able to assist them.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people will say, "Well, you could charge, for what you do, and the people that you have in your Rolodex. People will pay for that." Well, that's
Mhm.
not something that I do.
Right.
And I don't charge for that. I'm not a consultant. I do because I want to be able, the people that I support are passionate about their mission. And that's why I want to help them and connect them to other people who can help them be successful in what they're trying to do at that time.
Right, right. And
And I always tell people that I like to be done in a day. So I don't go with any long projects. I do something that, the event is coming up and it's over, I'm done.
done. Right, right. So then, and also that satisfaction at the end of the day is you just take home, enjoy it, and get ready for the next one. I think I
Yeah.
agree. Actually, that's a wonderful way to, consider the what you want to do as a volunteer. So yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I also know that you do a lot of mentorship, right? Like, the students and or even a community, the whoever needs help, like in assistance, anything that you have been, um, you know, served on a committees, right? Like on a DFW area everywhere. It's not just one area that you restricted that I bear, especially the Grand Prairie, Arlington, and they know you like a volunteer, not not as a vandal, so
Yes.
that is a wonderful thing. But so what are the challenges, like, the I'm very sure that there must be a strengths and also weaknesses that we can actually say, of that being a mentor.
For me, I never see anything as being a weakness. You always try and find the best in everything,
Right.
regardless of what it is. There's always the best out of everything. I always see a glass as half full and versus half empty,
Yeah.
and be grateful. For every opportunity. I'm grateful for meeting you. I'm grateful for Canty introducing us. I'm grateful for you allowing me to be on your show. So you find everything to be grateful for. And when you find gratitude in everything that you do every day, nothing is ever a challenge.
Wow, that's a good way to look at it. Absolutely. That's the most positive way of just, giving yourself the boost that, okay, so whatever that I'm doing, this is the pause, and just, like eliminate the negativity of everything what you see. That's a
Mhm.
wonderful way to look at it. So, well, I know that there is something that's very close to your heart, and then you and I start working on that as well. So I take this opportunity to, ask you and introduce one of the very, wonderful projects happening in Grand Prairie, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the Grand Prairie project. That's the amusement park experience for disabled. And I think, it's about time that all people know about this and learn about it, because this is an ongoing project. And one day this dream will come true, and then we are going to make that happen, right? So let's talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes, we are talking about Playground Adventures.
Yes. That's
Playground Adventures is a park in Grand Prairie. It is a park that is was designed for children, or not children, or people that have disabilities in mind. And when we're talking about not just children, because children with disabilities grow up and they are in adult bodies. So we have a park for those people who are still children in mind, but are now in adult bodies. And they have a place that they can now come and play and enjoy themselves. Most of the times, kids outgrow playground equipment by the time they're, what, 5 or 6 years old, because they're too big for the equipment. But Playground Adventures, it's a park where people of all ages, all sizes, all abilities can come and play together. And it is a wonderful place. The city of Grand Prairie donated 10 acres for this project, and 3 of the acres has been completed. And we're actually working on a project that's going to be called, it's called a Runway of Stars. And the date is to be determined, and we'll put it together. And our stars are going to be people with disabilities, are going to be our fashion models. And we are excited about it. We have about 10 people who have signed up to be our fashion models, and we haven't even determined the date for the event, but we have people that are excited about it. We are raising funds so that we can help fund phase 2 of the project.
Project. Right. Well, I am really looking forward to it. And then, see, generous people that, whoever watching this show, also please note down that one. And when this message come through, so, just open your heart for that, because, there is someone that really needs more than you of that. And they are more blessed. So I think that we need to give them a lot. And so definitely
Yes.
we will be there for them. So, you
Yes.
know,
If anyone would like to donate, they can just Google Playground Adventures
uh,
in Grand Prairie, and then there's a button where you can just, a donate button that's there, that's available.
Absolutely. So, well, let me come to this. Wherever we see Vandala, this is a wonderful picture of you, with the hands. Like, that is one of the best picture that I keep looking and say, such a wonderful, like I always think, this is $1 million smile, man. This is just something that like no one can say no to. If you that
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, because picture speaks thousand words, and without even saying something, that you are just telling, like the type of person that who they are. So, and also like while we were talking, I think the previous conversation that you said, like my humble beginning that gave me this, the insight of seeing other people, like and life, like smile sometimes just does it all. So that's what you say. So tell me, helping that need assistance, mentorship, everything that what you're doing in this life, whatever you're taking the projects on. So what is your one message to our audience? You already said that the smile is the biggest one, but don't be fooled by that. But at the same time, what is it that they can give back? Like, what is your message to a young audience? That I know that there are so many of them, they're fresh graduating or looking for a job or even doing volunteers, internships, so many of them at the same time. What is your message? Do you think that they also should save some time for themselves to give back?
Yes, and it doesn't take a lot to give back to your community. You can give back to your community by doing 10 on Tuesdays, which means that you pick up 10 pieces of paper on Tuesdays, and that's a program for the state of Texas, Keep Texas Clean, Beautiful.
Right.
And you can sign up and just register that you've picked up 10 pieces of paper on Tuesdays, and you've done your part as a resident of Texas.
So,
So
so it doesn't
everybody
matter
has a
what.
part.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, but just pick your what works for you, and then
What
just
works for you exactly.
do
and
it.
and you're a volunteer.
Yes, yes, yes. You can be your own volunteer. Yes, I agree with
Yes,
you.
you
So,
can.
well, Vandula, this is a wonderful seeing you and talking to you, and it is pleasure knowing all of your wonderful inspirational experience. Thank you so much for sharing with us and my global audience, because something that goes, with the special experience like this is not, we don't get to hear this one in detail, especially, and with so much of a, how can I say, the positivity attached to it, because this is really something that we need after 2020. Everyone is going through, or gone through, I should say, that we are just recovering. And I think we need to get back where we were and then spread the positivity as well. Well, thank you so much
Yes.
for joining. It's a pleasure having
Thank
you.
you for allowing me to be on your show.
Absolutely. And I want to thank all my global audience. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you liked our discussion today. I hope you learned something. And lifting women, by hands, each other, supporting, and then giving them, that feeling of like we are there for you is a wonderful thing that we need to encourage each other during this month. Please share and spread the positivity. And if you have an, inspiring story, don't hesitate to connect with me and share with me, and I'll be happy to feature you on my show. And you can email me at anu@aishanews.net. So, well, thank you so much again, and enjoy your weekend. We will see you again on my next show with another inspiring guest with you. Till then, take care. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm done. I